I think is what it is.
Flip
in the
'em.
game, in the game. Slow down, Justin. Okay, game 2, let's get into it. It's going to be taking place on Shire. It's a Tempo Storm pick. It has been a Tempo Storm pick for all of this part.
Tempo Storm is enjoying themselves some Shire, and they are getting a couple of wins on the map, more so than maybe you would assume. I'm trying to figure out what was the series that we saw. Was it Roll20? The only win that they got before the win here against the members of SpaceStation Gaming was against Roll20 on Shire. Gale Force, excuse me, Gale Force on Shire. So the fact that, you know, they're picking it, at first I was rather skeptical of Tempo Storm. Picking a map where it's hard to identify win conditions doesn't seem like something they should be doing, but the results are there, so I can't be that critical.
Yeah, it has been a favorite for them now. Talking about SpaceStation, just looking at their record on Shire, they're 2-0 going into this, so fair but not played a lot for SpaceStation.
And they were kind of the real Shire OGs when we think about it, all the way back No Tomorrow, busting it out.
Alarak Kerrigan.
The first all-in 4-man composition on a map like Shire. So, I mean, we can say maybe that is something that they can dig deep into the pockets of their past and find maybe some experience they could use here. But Tempo, still pretty big upper hand. If you didn't get that throughout game number 1, I'm here to let you know game number 2 is going to be equally challenging.
Medivh ban for SpaceStation. Tempo now considering there is a Tassadar possibility. Tempo really would be the team, I think, to play Abathur if someone were to play Abathur here on Shire. But the thing I'm wondering about is where does Greymane pop up again for SpaceStation? And
I've got to ask where Chromie pops up.
If
this isn't a Chromie ban, I want to know what SpaceStation Gaming actually thinks about Chromie, because their bans indicate that they think that it is a far better strategy than I currently hold it to be, but it has been so persistent that it seems like it's got to be the go-to. Tassadar's gone. So what is it, SpaceStation Gaming? Is the Chromie that big of a problem, or is it more of like a, as long as your opponent doesn't get it, you just don't want it yourself?
Well, we haven't seen any Chromie first picks. Yeah, it's always in that second pick slot. So nobody so far thinking that Chromie is that valuable to get her all by her lonesome at the very first pick. Honestly, if any team were to do that, I think it'd be Roll20.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
Especially with the Garrosh coming into play, if they think their opponent doesn't have the opportunity, lock in it for Prismaticism, get the Garrosh later on. Maps like Tomb has been such a consistent drafting strategy for Roll20. But SpaceStation Gaming, I think the biggest thing to highlight here is these bans are not wild, and they are still trying to figure out what that first pick is. I'm not claiming that I know it's going to be, well, what it's going to be, but what we are highlighting here is the fact that they are second-guessing whatever direction they want to be going. And I feel like a lot of that is based around what is the Chromie problem. It's a small problem, but it's kind of a big one.
First pick, Rhaegar. They get Rhaegar. Now Tempo Storm with the next 2 picks. If they want to deny ETC from SpaceStation again, this would be probably the place to do it. Have we seen Tempo play much ETC yet?
I feel like Uther has got to be a must for Tempo.
Genji.
So
with Genji, definitely.
Now that the Genji's locked in, it seems even more so. They're willing to go over towards that Dahaka, so less interest into the support role. I am very surprised at the lack of interest in towards Uther displayed by some North American teams, to be honest, especially with the Rhaegar being of high priority. I don't mind the Rhaegar being first pick. I think I can see a lot of the arguments into that, but it's the lack of Uther response on the side of Tempo Storm. It's very surprising to see some teams are like, this support choke is a law, and others are like, we don't care. We're willing to go all the way down to the Stukovs or whatever directions. But SpaceStation, they get the ETC you were talking about, and they pair it with that Malthael.
Malthael making sure they can keep up with the top lane of Dahaka for Tempo Storm. Although Tempo Storm will have the benefit of having a global, it gets even globalier at level 20 with
I like
Apex
that one.
Predator.
That's a new one, but I think that's probably one of our better works here at HGC North America. The globalier.
Globalier.
Yeah. Man.
But Malthael will put a lot of damage into Dahaka and may shift who Tempo Storm want to get as a support now, understanding Touch of Death. I mean, Tempo Storm brought that to SpaceStation last game. But I'm really happy to see the ETC for Casanova.
Tempo Storm has shown very different playstyles on Shire in the only 2 games we've gotten of them on phase number 2. So I'm really curious to see where they go with these next two picks, the 3-4 for them, I think is going to be crucial. There's a lot of objectively extremely powerful picks for SpaceStation. Pretty good considering the map and into the laning matchups that we have seen conveyed by Tempo Storm. So I feel like they have a master plan here. I'm not quite confident what it is, but I feel like if it's going to show, this is the rotation that happens. Because we know the mouth they'll get Dahaka 1v1 is not something that most North American teams are very accepting of or satisfied with. You have the Genji to baby up and towards top, and it has high gank potential onto it. So do you pick up like something wild, a little bit more like the Falstad? You have an opportunity to run a 2-1-2, more gank potential in the Malthael, and it counters him a little bit? Or do you just not even need it? Is it necessary for them?
I don't know why, but I keep thinking that they're going to Stitch's Kael'thas.
I mean, that is what I probably would have said before the Western Clash from them. I mean, this is the map that they were showing it the most. It has been the go-to.
They seem to be way more melee focused on Mouth Johanna.
We're missing something, Gilly.
I know.
What is it?
I hate that feeling.
I do too. That Malfurion and the Johanna are
Lots of wave clear.
Very counterintuitive, though, considering the first two picks.
Yes.
That's why it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And they weren't forced into those. When you see Johannas and Malfurions, that's after it's been a lot of resources committed by SpaceStation. This is volunteered, counterintuitive compared to the top two picks. That last pick, it's something. But what is it? Stukov Gul'dan for SpaceStation Gaming. A lot of wave clear response from them. Pretty solid 4-man across the board. Decent wave clear, double support. But with the Stukov, the Abathur, really, we're going EU.
I wondered if they were going to bring an Abathur, because now they have a lot of really good wave clear. They have a solid solo laner who can be helped with Genji, so they're making sure that they don't lose the lanes hard until Abathur can skill up, because that is the big issue with Abathur on Dragonshire.
It is the big problem with Abathur on Dragonshire. There are now a lot of things that SpaceStation Gaming essentially need to be very aware of on how they play the early game. Every Dragon Knight is kind of Tomb of the Spider Queen level of the Web Weaver phase. They can't mess around with those things. They need to make sure they get structures locked down. Has to put more emphasis and concentration into the bottom lane. I would like to see a little bit onto top two, but not too much. If they do that, Abathur, and commit too many resources towards top, Abathur will always be able to backdoor the shrines. Abathur isn't built for a map like Dragonshire, but if he gets past his powerful threshold, he's probably more oppressive than he can be even on some of the other maps. It's just a very skilled team will never let him hit that moment. And I don't know if the draft on the side of SpaceStation Gaming is aggressive enough, or if they have the coordination enough with the gap here and skill level between the teams to overcome that.
Well, it's very level 10 focused, extremely level 10 focused, which then puts you even in an even smaller window to try to make something happen.
Bloodlust would be really cool this game, and I know that sounds really dumb because there's two mages on that side.
There's two supports.
And there's two supports.
They totally could.
I hope that they do and use it concentrating on structures. Maybe, not that they have to, but if they're struggling with structures and opening up the map to execute the game faster on a map like Dragonshire, screw the Abathur late game 20, always controlling the Shine. You're losing the global game because they have a Dahaka. You don't win this game post 20 if you're SpaceStation Gaming. So you have to end it before.
Yeah.
Bloodlust is one of the few things that can do that.
Just looking at their comp, it's not like there's a whole lot that benefits from a Bloodlust.
He's just throwing the auto attacks left and right, and you're like, that's my boy, Gul'dan. That's why we picked you. We wanted that over the Fell Flame. The underhand versus the overhand. It's not adding up here, boys.
Let's do it. Let's see game 2. Let's see if we get Bloodlust from SpaceStation Gaming. Tempo Storm currently sitting 1 game up in this best of 5.
It is nice, though, with the Abathur picked up for Tempo Storm, we have seen this all over the world except North America. And the fact that Tempo Storm is the team willing to bust out the Abathur on Dragonshire, I feel like this is a good thing that they're the ones at the forefront of that.
I think they have been for a while, right? They even were last part.
When talking about the respect of the European teams and the performance and play out of that, or in some of the other parts of the world, or are we talking more with the innovation? Because they do lead.
They have been in... No, I'm talking about Abathur on Dragonshire specifically.
Yeah,
they have been played that all of this phase.
Yeah, and I just feel like that for them has got to be a big sign, because Tempo has been probably one of the more stubborn when it comes to respect towards international meta and play. So being the team now, again, indicating that they are showing that they are very much accepting of international meta and now trying to see and flaunt it their own here in NA.
We'll be watching to see what support changes we have for SpaceStation since they have the double support in builds, as well as their laning setup. We currently see Malthael and Rhaegar heading up to the mid.
Oh man, look at this
rotation.
rotation.
Catches Tiger JK. There's a power slide.
It's gonna get Fury in a bad spot using the passive. Psalm's already burnt one dash. He's got cyber agility, gets himself a hat, and he makes it out. So SpaceStation Gaming is actually focusing on top out of concern for this Abathur composition rather than bottom.
It's kind of cool though because ETC can rotate back and forth, and then there's always a support with a damage dealer because they've still got Equinox hanging out with Talking Trees. Casanova can show up to see where he can possibly get a gank, but Trees has such good wave clear, and that's made even better by help from Stukov that they can kind of handle those double lanes if they play it right.
They can handle the double lane pretty well, and they so far are doing a pretty reasonable job. Equinox out a bit too far, but he's still got the heals. Nobody's going to get a kill, just a Malfurion and a Johanna.
He's looking for the power slide.
They get a power slide.
Great condemn behind that though.
Body block attempts are not enough. Now the, Swift Strike coming in from Zalm. We've got the brush dock on in. The drag not quite there, but the body blocks are real. 3 for nothing. Tempo Storm fighting this back. Very well done.
SpaceStation doing at least what they can up in the top lane though to try to take out towers and mitigate that damage. But Tempo Storm already again getting an early advantage over SpaceStation.
And you put up a pretty solid argument as to the laning situation from SpaceStation Gaming, and is why they are running this kind of unique 2-on-2 with more focus towards that top lane on a map like Dragonshire. But I want to take a moment to look back towards my fear of the late game for SpaceStation Gaming. And though, yes, right now, that looks like it might be a temporarily winning victory, ignoring what is happening on the bottom half of the map, which is another talking point.
Yep.
How do you end the game through top? You just don't. We know that's the bridge of death. It's just that concentration and these resources committed, I feel like are really going to bite SpaceStation Gaming back here in this game if they continue it, because the top lane in the bridge of death is not something you want to siege with a Dragon Knight
yeah,
into.
I don't think it's going to go any further than the bridge of death. It's all about, I didn't even realize that we've got Jason on Malthael, so he's sticking with the solo laning for the team, but just making sure that they can push back to Haka and make that lane go back so that every time he's not getting a lot of free structural value, then limits Abathur and what he can do too. You keep Dahaka and Abathur at bay, and then you can transition and start more focus on the mid and, of course, bottom, which is traditionally where you do end the game. Risky, but it seems to go along with what SpaceStation wants to do, right, which is get an early lead, thinking if we can take out this top 4 early on, we can get an early advantage. Unfortunately for them, though, the wave clear of Tempo Storm is very good between Moonburn and Johanna. They were able to catch a lot of members in rotation, and that's putting Tempo Storm with a very good early game lead.
A full level lead almost here before the 10 mark has even come online. That is something SpaceStation Gaming cannot have happen. This is not just because you don't want to see SpaceStation Gaming fall behind. It's because of not only the skill disparity, but more importantly, that Abathur. He's holding his own as you see him kind of slugging around there on bottom. The laning has been stalled out by SpaceStation. They've gained a little bit more control, but they are by no means punishing and forcing Tempo Storm to be overreactive. At best, Tempo feels like they have to commit one more rotation to stop the Dragon Knight from happening. And meanwhile, they're just worried about 10, 20. That is the part of the game where they are going to be far more intimidating.
SpaceStation at least will have a lot of things happening for them at heroic abilities, but they've lost Malthael. Fury hits the drag. Psalm's gonna use his deflect for a little more damage, and they had Abathur Hap, but only the 1 kill in the top lane, so Tiger JK can still at least soak that lane. But Tempo Storm is pushing back SpaceStation on all fronts.
They are just constantly pressuring every aspect of this map. Now Tempo Storm controlling both of these altars. I don't think they're gonna catch themselves a Dragon Knight yet. June now is the focus for SpaceStation Gaming. Equinox has an auto, but the Abathur had the heal, and he lives, and just barely getting out of range out of that slow auto attack from Equinox. The drag secures the first Dragon Knight. Tempo is just ruining SpaceStation. They're winning every small trade at every aspect of this map.
Yeah, June pulling Equinox and Talking Trees out of the shrine, hoping to get the kill there. Then they didn't get the shrine, which allowed Cattle to make sure to get the Dragon Knight. They've still got a level lead. SpaceStation haven't been able to get a kill yet. and they haven't been able to do very much of anything to that top fort, which has been a primary focus for them.
And you know, I'm gonna be honest here, even if I think SpaceStation can secure that top fort, I feel like they are failing to appreciate the amount of backdoor pressure that the double globals are going to present with their failure to have a global on their end. I do, you know, I can see the argument into it. It's just, if Tempo appropriately uses those, commits resources to backdooring the Shrine, I think it's very realistic to where it is not a major problem that they are fearful of, even without that top fort. But the Dragonite end has come, and 10 has been here for Tempo Storm. No wild heroics coming out from them. Isolation is the choice there for the Dahaka, even flaunted here up on top, but no kill gained.
Tiger JK is healing up. Invade on the Giants in the bottom lane, though. SpaceStation Gaming were hoping to get theirs, but without heroic abilities, just have to give it up. Even Blessed Shield being used on Talking Trees. Fury comes in for the perfect drag after the fact, after getting a kill already on Gul'dan, and they get 2 kills because SpaceStation were out trying to get an objective without their heroics. Love this punishment from Tempo.
I absolutely adore it. This is what we have been waiting from Tempo Storm for a very long time. But, I mean, it's only one game here, and it is Dragonshire. We don't need to, you know, get too excited too fast here, but it is very pretty, the display that they are presenting here for us today against SpaceStation. And it's just, normally I try to be, I know I can be the Debbie Downer, and then once in a while I'm very okay with being like, you know, it's going to be a hard time. I try to give a little bit of honesty when it comes to the results of the games and what you can expect. But I'm going to be honest, I'm reaching for many of the opportunities on how SpaceStation is kind of playing this out with the comp of Tempo, and more impressively, the prowess Tempo Storm is displaying with this. Just feels, Lost Cause seems too far, but it feels that way.
Well, at least they have heroics. It starts now. The comeback starts here. But not if Kato is able to catch Talking Trees. He's got Blessed Shield. Casanova comes in. Iron Skin's popped. Dahaka and the Genji continually pushing the other lanes while SpaceStation makes their stand in the bottom lane.
They are making their stand. The Night Camp will help out pressure, providing a little bit of vision and a small time advantage over consuming this bottom Sun Altar. Cattle anchored off to the side. Equinox, that might not be the direction you want to go. Horrify used to try and save him, but Psalm and friends are fine. Getting the hack and slash there. Tormented Souls is dropped. Tiger JK is the focus. He uses Ancestral. It does land, but at the cost of his life.
Yeah, it's still probably not even going to save Jason. He's still using that Reaper's Mark on Cawthon Luck, and Cawthon in the position to allow Jason to live. Fantastic job there by Jason, but even still, the rotation from Stukov, aggressively Cattle, anchoring, catching him out, gets kills on both of the supports from SpaceStation Gaming. And importantly for Tempo Storm, they have camps pushing in the top. They had Dahaka there for a long time. They get the Dragonite. They have 13, and they're going to start opening this battleground up for their globals to put on the pressure.
I think what we see happening right now is a really good example of why I'm displaying so much concern. And I feel like I haven't done an effective job expressing why.
Okay.
And we see right there, that was exactly, even beyond the kill potential into this, the best laning situation SpaceStation Gaming has as a defense to this Dragonite is to send the Gul'dan to deal with the massive wave on one aspect of the map. It is their only wave clear that they have to deal with the pressure that Tempo Storm is putting out. So anytime Tempo has pressure on one area in another, there's no way for the members of SpaceStation Gaming to stall it out. And normally you'd make up for that by having 2 wave clear sources or a global. They don't have either. They have one and they have no global. Tempo is not struggling in the early game, and suddenly you're like, well, when, you know, you normally have that but what if thought process. In SpaceStation Gaming, it just doesn't feel like they've got it, at least not for the remainder of Dragonshire. But possibly if they end up making something happen before the 16th.
No, Casanova goes down. He would have been the one to need to go in for the Mosh. Horrify, though, helps out, and Samu's caught with a flailing swipe. He's still there. Ancestral Healing lands on Jason.
And Twilight Dream didn't get the value they wanted.
He's got the Reaper's Mark on a lot of people, but still can't make anything happen.
And now we see Psalm going back in there with the Dragon Blade. He finds reset 1. Tiger JK preps up reset 2. And that is all she wrote here for this bottom keep. Tempo Storm making things happen. Equinox throwing out the lurking arm. But it's just that. It's just lurking, you know? Not really kind of finding too much, not really doing too much to Tempo Storm. And now they close out the gap here towards 16.
Fury has been landing just about every single drag. His stock timings and locations are on point. We talked about the change for him to go on Dahaka, and Dahaka has been a hero that he's always enjoyed playing. He's been a great safe solo laner for this team, even as they continue to switch back and forth in the roles, and he is proving how strong he could be as an asset for them with this global and with this ability to isolate heroes and give his team kills.
And with that top 4 falling, Abathur has now found a playground on Dragonshire. No fort on top or bottom. Those are the only 2 lanes you're considering with looking at him on Dragonshire. And 30 seconds away from another Dragonite phase. Gilly, this is one of those weird situations where I do feel like it is in the best interest for SpaceStation Gaming to not stall this Dragonite at all and just worry about soaking. Because the longer that they stall the Dragonite, the faster the scaling happens onto the Dragonite, and the faster, oh, they're going to try and force instead.
Yeah, they feel like it is necessary now to try to force a fight. Johanna gets away with her iron skin. That's one target who's made it out. A nice zoning route from June allows him to escape, and Psalm with his mobility will get out too. SpaceStation don't find any picks. They do take the Moonshrine in the bottom lane, but there's a mercenary camp pushing that has to be cleared out.
And we see the top shrine already controlled by Fury on the Dahaka. He comes in with the brush stock. Their focus is on the Equinox. Ancestral Healing is unable to go off here. Fury drops the silence onto Tiger JK. Twilight Dream interrupts the mosh pit, and Psalm finds himself kill 1, kill 2. There's 3, and about to be a 4th. 5 for nothing. Tempo is taking Dragonshire.
They are dominantly winning this series so far in games 1 and 2. A full 5-man team wipe, 18 kills to 0. And in a battleground where we do not generally see this early of a win, they're going to be able to take Dragonshire and go up 2 games in this best-of-5 series over SpaceStation Gaming.
Stukov is just the lone support, the last man to stand. All she wrote. Oftentimes, you know, I feel like I ask a lot of Tempo Storm as a roster and be like, I want that kind of aggression. I want that level of dominance. And a lot of people are like, Dread, what else could they be doing better? Like, what level of dominance? And I just want this to be a case example when I say, I feel like those teams should be just bodying their opponents if they truly think that they are that great. This is an example of what I'm talking about. 18-0 in kills, 12 minutes and 26 seconds on Dragonshire, with a late game composition just going, no, we're not having that. Not letting up at a single moment of the entire game, and just, it's all she wrote. Not even looking close. That is exactly what I've asked for so long from that group. And they aren't the only ones. I've done it of every team in North America going to international play and coming back. But I know a lot of people at home sit there and go, what could you possibly want more? There it is.
Yeah, they are playing amazingly well. And this is why they're 2 games up over SpaceStation currently. And I think the best thing for Tempo Storm is that they are doing this after 2 very difficult losses, as well as a difficult and disappointing Western Clash. Tempo Storm is back in this series, and it's awesome to see. We'll see if they can close it out. We're going to a commercial break. After the break, we'll have game number 3. See you soon. We'll get out to SpaceStation. Don't find any picks. They do take the Moonshrine in the bottom lane, but there's a mercenary camp pushing that has to be cleared out.
And we see the top shrine already controlled by Fury on the Dahaka. He comes in with the brush stock. Their focus is on the Equinox. Ancestral Healing is unable to go off here. Fury drops the silence onto Tiger JK. Twilight Dream interrupts the mosh pit, and Psalm finds himself kill 1, kill 2. There's 3, and about to be a 4th. 5 for nothing. Tempo is taking Dragonshire.
They are